Bob Pierce, and welcome to the studio. I'm an author, and I've been in the publishing industry for many years, and we're going to teach you in these videos some tips and some ideas on how to get your book written. And notice a distinction: we're not going to teach you how to write, but no, I'm going to give you some tips on how to go about getting the project done, and some tips on some of my own experiences with self-publishing, together with another gentleman named Rick Blaisdell, who is another independent author. He and I did a number of live seminars a little while back and got a lot of feedback from some of the folks who were attending on some of the major roadblocks that they were experiencing. And in this very first video, we're going to tackle the two biggest ones and show you how to kind of get off the dime and get going and get this project done. You have to identify yourself as a writer. And as a writer, as Billy Crystal told his class in Throw Mama from the Train, a writer writes. And that's what you do. Now, we're all independent writers. We all have to do something else to keep the roof over our heads, pay the mortgage, and all of that. So we have day jobs. And when someone comes up and asks us at a party or something, so what do you do? Your response needs to be, first and foremost, I'm a writer. And that's how you identify yourself. And when you do, people are going to ask you, so what do you write? And that opens the door for you to explain yourself. What sort of things do you write? If you already have something published, what you've got out there. The two big roadblocks that we come across time and time again are, I can't find time to write, and I can't seem to ever get past chapter 1. Well, we're going to attack both of those right now. The first major roadblock that people seem to keep running into is, I can't seem to find time to write. Well, the problem is you're trying to find time to write. You're not making time to write, and that's the key to it. If you are dedicated to your craft, and if writing is what you do and who you are, then you're going to set up an appointed time every week that you're going to set aside just to do your writing. Now, that could be whatever works for you. If you have kids, if you are an empty nester, whatever your circumstances are, define a time, and that is dedicated to writing, no matter what. You know, a friend calls you up, says, come on over for a barbecue, and it happens to be at that time. No, I'm sorry, I can't. You know, I have to work. You need to be true to your own self and your own writing. That's really, really important. So, make an appointed time to write. The other side of that same coin is an appointed place. We've heard stories about people who complain that, well, the only thing I can do is set it up on the dining room table, and after I'm done writing, take it all back down again and put it away. If that's all you can do, then that's okay. Just do it. Just do whatever it is you have to do to get that book written. And so this is my setup. Considering all the different kinds of work we do here, it's a pretty straightforward and simplistic setup. A Macintosh desktop computer with the usual array of monitor and keyboard and so forth. A laptop would work just as well. Important feature up above the machine up here is a peripheral hard drive. It's set up so that the machine itself is air-gapped. It's not online anywhere. And the hard drive on the machine has the operating system and various programs and fonts and so forth. But all the work is on that peripheral hard drive. And it's all backed up as we go along on thumb drives. And I keep those handy because every session I do when I sit down and write, it gets backed up before I turn off the computer and walk away. A side table where I have my notes and various folders and whatever materials I need for reference. Lots of post-it notes, just so that I can look at a glance and remember the names of my different characters, maybe some location names, things like that. Things that come up frequently during the course of a story. These are left over from the last project. They'll all be coming down shortly for the next project, and we'll start it all over again. And a copy stand to prop things up on. This is where the little notebook lives, along with a few pens to keep them handy, and I can jot down notes as I need to. Bookshelves up here with reference materials. A lot of CDs with images that get used for different illustrations and so forth, and keep all of that on hand. And of course, just out of view over here is the CD player with all the great music that I play as we go through each and every draft. The other big roadblock is I can't seem to get past that first chapter. It's because you're not thinking of your book as a book. You're thinking of it as just a chapter. And you're going to hammer at that chapter until you think it's perfect. But you're never going to get it perfect. That's because you haven't written the rest of the book yet. You don't know how to set up that first chapter to lead into the rest of the book. And so until subsequent chapters are written, you got nowhere to go. And so you'll keep banging on that first chapter until the day you die. Take a look at this project from the 30,000 foot view, the big picture, if you will. And to keep yourself on track, the important thing to do is to have a roadmap. An outline. A lot of people do a very detailed outline. I just kind of do a bullet points. I start out with a legal pad like this, and I just write maybe a page, page and a half, a few bullet points, just to kind of give me a point by point by point roadmap as to where my story is going to go. Generally, I have a pretty good idea what I'm going to do all up here anyway, and I just take it from there. And as I'm writing, I have a tendency to go down rabbit trails. Now, some of these rabbit trails are great, and they end up in the book, and some of them are just a distraction. The key to it all is something that we talk about in the writers group that I belong to. The woman who facilitates it brings a notebook with her every time, and she has written on the cover of the notebook in big letters, "Write bloody." Write bloody. Now, writing bloody doesn't have anything to do with blood, gore, and any of that sort of thing. It means that when you're writing, especially in that very first chapter, that it doesn't matter how bad it is. Just keep writing. And just keep going along from chapter to chapter to chapter in that first draft and get it down. It's just the first draft. Well, for my books, typically go through 6 or 7 drafts. And that's pretty typical. Some of them go through even more. Once you've gotten through this first one, you may not know it yet, but it's going to bite you like a drug, and you're going to want to write the next one and the next one after that. Every time you finish one, somewhere along the lines, a new idea is going to hit, and you're going to be wanting to get on to the next project. It just kind of comes with the territory. And trust me, you'll love it. You'll be on all the time, looking at your surroundings. The world will look a little different to you because you're processing stuff all the time. How is this going to work in the next book? What can I do with that? Carry your camera around, snapping pictures. I do. I use a lot of them for illustrations, but I'm also a very visual person. So when I take pictures, a lot of times they're to remind me of how something looked, how something was set up, whatever, somehow, so that when I write it, I know exactly how things were, to be able to describe it as clearly as possible. So, takeaways from this first video. Number 1, you're a writer. Think of yourself as such. Devote yourself to your craft. You'll never get it done if you're just sort of picking at it like a tourist. Secondly, make an appointed time and an appointed place if at all possible, but definitely an appointed time to do your writing on a regular basis. And thirdly, write bloody! Get through that first draft, not the first chapter, but the first draft, and just bang it out no matter what. Everything that you put down, bad spelling, bad grammar, you don't know the words for something, you don't know how to phrase something, you don't know the name of the street that the Prague Opera House is on. Fine, just plow through it and get that first draft done. You'll massage it and change it and edit it, and the third draft and fourth draft, each draft refines it a little more until you finally get to what you might think is the last draft, and then put a fork in it. Now we'll talk in the next video about how to get yourself organized, how to set up your computer so you have everything laid out mechanically, nuts and bolts sort of stuff. I'll try not to make it any more boring than I have to, but it's important. So we'll try to give you a really good sense of getting it together and making it work so that you can stay on track as you go along from draft to draft to draft. So until the next time, I'm Bob Pierce. Remember, write bloody. We'll see you in the next video.